All right. I think I'm live. Been playing around with a couple of options here, trying to figure out the best way to do things in OBS. Um, so I'll give everybody a chance to get online. Hopefully it's working for everyone. I'm trying a different thing with it. I figured out within OBS you can direct specific windows to the display, and so I've been trying to play with the best arrangement of that. So what you're seeing is me in the bottom right, and then Slack in the top left. Top right, and then I'm gesturing, but so I'm down here in the bottom. The Slack is directly above me, and then to my right, but to your left, you should see the Chrome window that I'm using to show you some things today. So hopefully that works. Yeah, we'll see. So I'm back in the same place I was before. It's kind of chilly out here, but that's all right. I have a nice sweater. And it's a rainy day, but it's a spring kind of rain. It feels kind of nice outside. So hey, Michaela, good to see you, Michaela. So I'm here. I mentioned my squirrel feeder last time, and I wanted to sit here again mainly so you all could help me keep an eye on it. I don't want you to be distracted, but so the last one we had broke, like the side of it broke off, and so squirrels could. It couldn't hold birdseed at all, so birdseed would just dump out. So we got a new feeder, the same style of feeder, and we put the baffle on top again. But squirrels have been in there all morning, and I can't figure out how they're getting in. Like, I don't know if they're coming down from above or if they're jumping up from the ground. And so if you happen to see one, let me know. Like, just throw something, just say squirrel in there. Or if you happen to see how it gets up there, let me know. They're pretty interesting. So somebody let me know if my audio is okay. I think it is, or it looked like it was when I was testing it in the levels on OBS. Yeah, hopefully it's working all right. Okay, great, thanks. So the difference I'm going to do today is kind of like we did Friday. I thought that worked pretty well, where I kind of guided some discussion things, and then we chatted about it in Slack, and then I put a version of that up on Canvas later. I'm gonna try to get that Canvas version up sooner. Like, I didn't get up until like Friday, like midnight, but I'll try to do that right after class today. So if you're watching this later, you can have access to that sooner, because I really want you all to engage either one of those, like either in the real time, like you're doing right now at the live stream, or later in Canvas. I think it's important to have a sense of community and conversation around some of these topics. So I really would like for you to participate in those if you can. It's a way to keep contact with the class and to kind of have a sense of normal, as we're kind of getting used to a new sense of normal. So yeah, hope you all are doing well. We're kind of into this is the beginning of the second week of this new normal, I guess. But it's starting to feel like for me, it's starting to feel like a rhythm, I guess. I did some projects over the weekend and kind of tried to stay offline, and it was good for me mentally. I made a little, I'll show you later, but I made a little caddy for we have a bunch of Kindles and other electronic devices, and so I made a little charging station for them. So I have another layer of paint to put on that. Yeah, that's kind of what I've been doing. I feel I've been finding productive ways to stay busy. I've noticed my kids kind of adapting to different things. My son, he's 7. He, for some reason, has decided he wants to get strong. He's 7, so he doesn't have a lot. He's not. He's strong for a 7-year-old, I guess, but he's doing, like, we do these workout videos. So he's been doing workout videos of his own and like lifting weights and stuff. So like he gets up at 7 and works out. So okay, good for him, right? So he'll probably show up and flex later. That's his thing. Like, he likes flexing right now. But I've actually I've closed the door off, so and he should be doing his school stuff right now, so maybe not. Anyway, so today, here's what we're going to do. I'm going to talk about, we spent last week looking at the Mike Daisey story and looking at it from a couple of different angles. So we were interested in the claims that he was making and trying to understand whether they were true or not. And because he presented that in a complicated way, I guess complicated is the most generous way we could describe that, we also were able to look at the modality, like the way that audio delivered that, and the way that the podcast kind of set that up to be a reliable account, or in some ways undermined it. But hopefully, you saw the main takeaway there is that there are labor issues, there are abuses. Mike Daisey was in some ways correct, but in a lot of really basic ways incorrect or untruthful in how he told his story. So it's something that he prompted us to pay attention to what was going on, but ultimately didn't give us accurate pictures of what was going on. So it's our responsibility to figure out what actually is going on. And in your device, if you're researching the prehistory, that's something that you should be looking into to figure out what are the labor conditions at the different suppliers that have created your object. So that can be tricky sometimes. I'm happy to help with all these things, but hopefully you can figure some things out on your own. This is sort of it's become a kind of independent study project for you all. So I can of course guide you if you have questions, but hopefully you can figure out a lot on your own and then report back. So today we're going to start looking at the afterlife, or the recycling phase of electronic devices. What happens to them? And to do that, we're going to watch a short documentary film on YouTube. So I'm gonna pull it up on my screen, and then invite you to watch with me. And then it's like 8 minutes long, so we can watch it together. And I have some questions that I'd like you to keep in mind as you watch, and then we'll talk about them afterward in Slack. So I'll put a couple questions in Slack, and then then we'll talk about it and kind of see where they go. And then I'll put those questions and the link to the video later in Canvas so you can access it that way. So let me just get into that then. Actually, before I do that, just a quick note so we'll do something similar on Wednesday, although I'll give you the link ahead of time on Wednesday because it's a longer film that I want you to watch on your own. And then on Friday, I'm just going to have open office hours during the 10 o'clock and 11 o'clock section time periods. So I probably won't be live streaming at all. I'll probably just be online in my video chat room thing. So if you want to stop in and ask a question, you can do that. You can also reserve time on my appointment thing on my website if you want to do it that way. But for today and Wednesday, we're going to do something together. And so here's what we're going to do today. This is a video that is on YouTube, and I'm going to make sure you can see it okay. Yeah. I don't know if I should go full screen on this or not. I'm not sure I'm actually not sure what's going to happen if I go full screen. So let me just do this as an experiment. And that was not what I expected. Okay, no, I don't want to do that. I'll keep it. I'll just keep it in the window there so that I can actually see the chat at the same time. So yeah, this is a video. I'll play it, and so hopefully the audio from my computer will come through the mic, and hopefully it doesn't sound too weird. If it does, let me know. But I've got the captions on, so you can read those if you want. So this is a short video. It focuses on the work of a group called the Basel Action Network, and this is actually a segment that was the video that you see here. They've done a couple different versions of this as a documentary, I think, but because I saw it on PBS years ago. But this is similar, and the nice thing about this particular version is that it has good quality captions. So that's the main reason I picked this exact version. So let's watch this. I'll keep an eye on the audio, and somebody let me know if the audio is weird, and I will try to adjust it if I can. But let's watch this. And as you watch this, a couple things to keep in mind. So you have an object that you've chosen for your version of the digital archaeology project. So keep an eye out for your object or something like it in here, or something that has the same kind of materials. So I'll actually type these questions up in Slack, but here's what I'm interested in asking you all. Among the materials that are in electronic devices, what are some of the most valuable ones? What are some of the most dangerous ones? And then what do you actually have in your device? Which of those categories of things do you actually have in your device? Those are kind of the starting point questions. Okay, so let's watch this about 8 minutes long, and then we'll talk about it.
We're buying equipment. We look around, see what they have, and we start tackling over the price. So, any questions?
No, sir.
I think it's right up here, about a quarter of a mile.
Jim Puckett is leading a team that's going undercover to find out what actually happens to electronics that are sent to U.S. recyclers.
Most of the public still thinks a recycler is a recycler, and that they're going to recycle it right there in America. They're really exporters, and they don't care what happens at the other end. Shows us 10 meters out.
Puckett is the founder of the Basel Action Network. a Seattle-based watchdog group that investigates the afterlife of electronics.
We're basically trying to stop the rich countries from dumping their hazardous waste on the poorer countries.
In this case, Hong Kong.
But they're running.
Running away?
To get inside, a local driver and translator posed as e-waste buyers.
老板，我们过来买货的。我就说是想要看一下那个电子器件的那些零部件嘛。之类的。
With people buying new computers and other electronics more frequently than ever, electronic waste is now the fastest growing waste stream in the world. On top of that, it contains toxic materials that can poison people and the environment.
So a couple of you are noticing that the computer, the playback is lagging on your view of it. So let me try to see if I just lower the resolution. Maybe that will improve the playback of it. I mean, do we try to go into 480p land and see how 480p goes? This might just kind of slow hopefully it'll be less, less intense. I did put the link in Slack too if you just want to watch it that way. Oops, I just accidentally clicked ahead in the video. That's not what I meant. Oh, dang it. Okay, hang on. How far along did I get? We'll go about a minute in. Let's see if that's any better.
But they're running.
Running away?
To get inside, a local driver and translator posed as e-waste buyers.
老板，我们过来买货的。我就说是想要看一下那个电子器件的那些零部件嘛。之类的。
With people buying new computers and other electronics more frequently than ever, electronic waste is now the fastest growing waste stream in the world. On top of that, it contains toxic materials that can poison people and the environment. This investigation began months ago, when Puckett's team put GPS tracking devices inside 200 old computers, printers, and TVs. Then they dropped them off at locations across the country, at recycling facilities, donation centers, and electronics take-back programs, including some of the industry's most reputable companies.
We sat back and said, where are they going to go? And the little devices went out and spoke to us, saying, this is where I am.
Puckett's group partnered with Carlo Roddy of the Sensible City Lab at the Massachusetts Institute of Technology.
Tracking is really the first step in order to design a better system. One of the surprising things we discover is how far waste travels. You see these kind of global e-waste flows that actually almost cover the whole planet.
Each device traveled an average of about 2,500 miles, and around a third of the tracked computers were exported. Of those, most ended up here. Hong Kong is home to one of the world's busiest ports. Ships deliver more cargo than is possible to inspect. As a result, Hong Kong has a reputation for being a transit point for illegal trade and smuggling of all kinds.
Turn right onto Tin Fat Road.
Most of the exported tracked devices led Puckett to a little-known part of Hong Kong called the New Territories.
So it's really a frontier. It's really cowboy land out there.
Puckett followed one tracked printer here to a place that calls itself a farm.
Farmland? Yeah, that's a great farm in there. You would have no idea that there was a huge scrapyard there until you look over the fence.
Inside, they found printers being taken apart by immigrant workers.
I'm looking for asset tags to tell me where the material came from. I look for the environmental harm issues. I look for the workstations to see how those workers might be exposed.
Many of the workers handle hazardous material without protective gear. One concern, printer toner, a probable carcinogen.
There's no protections of this labor force. There's no occupational laws that are going to protect them.
Jackson Lau is the head of the Hong Kong Recycling Association. He runs a licensed recycling facility in the New Territories, and he says the junkyards in the area that import e-waste are unlicensed and unregulated.
只不過停留喺一個分類拆解個過程，咁整個呢個處理過程咧，其實就唔係一個好完善嘅設備嘅，咁形成咗咧有啲冇價值嘅嘢咧會堆放咗喺香港裏邊咧。老細。
Look at the tubes. Many tubes thrown on the ground here.
The white fluorescent tubes light up LCD screens. Each of them contains mercury, and even a tiny amount can be a neurotoxin.
Day in and day out, these workers are completely oblivious to this hazard, are smashing these. The tubes are breaking right in front of their faces, and mercury is very toxic.
你哋要戴口罩。I asked him that if he knows the wipe tubes are dangerous. He has no idea.
The United States is the only developed nation that hasn't ratified an international treaty to stop first world countries from dumping e-waste on developing nations. Other developed nations set e-waste collection mandates and require electronics manufacturers to pay for domestic e-waste processing. Further, the United States has no federal laws requiring electronics to be recycled. Half of states allow electronics to be dumped in landfills. John Shigerian is the CEO of Electronics Recycling International, the largest e-waste recycling company in the United States.
It takes hundreds of employees in each facility to do the real work of electronic recycling.
He says that some recyclers are exporting to cut costs, because in the last 2 years, their biggest source of revenue has plummeted.
At the height of the market, when we would go to sell steel, plastic, aluminum, gold, silver, palladium, copper, we were getting 14 to 15 cents a pound more than we are today.
Dell Reconnect, an exciting program that makes getting rid of old technology easy. Dell was the first major computer manufacturer to ban the export of non-working electronics to developing countries. They partnered with Goodwill, allowing people to drop off old computers of any brand for free to be refurbished or recycled. The electronics are either dismantled on site or sent to Dell's recycling partners. Dell says that more than 400 million pounds of e-waste has been diverted from U.S. landfills because of their program. But the Basel Action Network and MIT's investigation concluded that tracking devices placed in old computers and dropped off at participating Goodwill locations ended up in Hong Kong, China, Taiwan, and Thailand. Beth Johnson manages Dell's program.
If there's something that did not follow the system, we would certainly want to know about it, and we would certainly take corrective action.
In a written statement, Goodwill Industries said it's committed to responsible recycling and encouraged its member organizations, which are autonomous, to review their contracts with Dell. Back in Hong Kong, Puckett finds more clues to the scale of the problem.
Laptop with an LCD screen ending up here in Hong Kong and new territories for the Los Angeles school system. Unbelievable.
Puckett finds electronics from U.S. police departments, jails, hospitals, and libraries.
The government is always trying to save taxpayers' money, so they are obliged in some cases to always do the cheapest thing.
For now, market forces are driving e-waste exports.
Throwing it on the bank here.
Without a federal law banning the export of e-waste, there's little incentive for the industry to change.
All right, so I like that out. I'm just gonna leave that on there. So the first question I have is what the, hang on, let me get my notes back up here. There it is. So did you see your device anywhere in this video? You've hopefully picked one for the new version of the archaeology project. So did you see yours? There's a couple of larger objects in here, I think, but think about the components that they're talking about. So a printer has moving parts to it. It also has toner, right? So that was something that we talked about. Is anyone working on a printer? Those are very disposable electronics. I mean, I find like a printer, to me, lasts about a year before I'm done with it, or it's just not working well enough. So are any of you looking at the lifetime of a printer, the prehistory, the lived history, or the post-history, the afterlife of a printer? That can be interesting, but as you notice, kind of dangerous. Does your thing have a screen? If so, what's in that screen? So basically, did you see anything here familiar? I mean, I know a few of your devices, but I don't know a lot of them. So partly this is me. I'm curious to see what you all are working on. And yeah, sorry the video was kind of laggy. I'll see if I can improve that for the 11 o'clock stream. Oh, neat. We have a spam bot in the chat on Twitch. Okay, don't click that link if you see it there. Don't click the link from Barbara012. But it's probably just a ad. It's probably not a virus or anything, but still, don't click on it. Or Barbara12 if you're a real person. Hello, welcome to the stream. But yeah, it looks like several of you are typing, so I'll let you type your thoughts out. Squirrel. Hey, get over there. Yeah. Get off the tree. So it was when I yell at it, it jumps back to the tree. Like I don't know if it can. So clearly it can clear that distance. But the question is whether it can jump the other way and hit the bird feeder. Probably can. But if that's the case, I don't know what to do about it. Okay, great. So got a couple of things. So we've got two. So Curry, you're saying you have a DS Lite, so definitely the screen could have something in it, right? So it's probably not going to have the fluorescent tubes, all right? But so probably not the fluorescent. How do you spell fluorescent? Tubes. Is that right? But maybe something similar, more compact. Yeah, they would, I think. So Curry, your question, I think they would have something, but smaller. Okay, so if you saw the screen for a camera, so yeah, Michaela, you're working on a DSLR camera, right? So maybe, I mean, those do have a little LCD screen on them. Yeah, okay, so it sounds like all these devices that you've all mentioned so far, so we've got, calculator, phone, camera, DS, all these have screens, right? LED or LCD. So that kind of gives us a important category of something to investigate. So we should probably figure out what we can about LED, LCD screens if that's what a lot of people are looking at. Usually those are like laminated, so they're layers. There are multiple layers of different materials. So it would probably be pretty easy to figure out what those materials are. Maybe there's a good explainer YouTube video, or even a patent or other documents like that can be pretty good as far as explaining kind of what something's made out of. Yeah, so interesting idea about the worthlessness. So Emily, my computer basically moves in slow motion whenever I'm streaming, so that's probably why you all were seeing the lag. I might need to find, see if I can, I've been trying to work on other things. I haven't actually gotten back to that big PC that I think will stream better if I can get it working, but it doesn't work at all, so that's kind of a moot point. Ultimately it is about the economics of these things, so that's the real question as far as where things go and why, right? If there's in other words, if there's a market for it, then you can sell it, and wherever that market is, that's where your things go. So that's what's really the thing that we should be paying attention to here. Okay, so Jonathan's looking at TI-84. Test, yours is, Test is a different kind of calculator, but probably the same basic screen technology, the LCD. I wouldn't try to take that apart because I don't know what that is, so I wouldn't recommend that. You probably have to melt it, and I don't think that's a good idea. Okay, yeah. So of course, lived history is something that is probably easier for a lot of you to get a handle on if you already have a device, but that's fine. Okay, so let's talk about some of the more dangerous components, like some of the things that were in there. Actually, no. Well, let's talk about valuable first. Let's switch to valuable. So among all these devices, including yours, what are some of the most valuable materials? So the things inside of it that it's made of, like what are the things that potentially have a resale value, right? So many calculators. That's great. Oh, somebody's chatting over here in Twitch too. Let me see. It's a little easier for me to keep track of it in Slack, so whoever that is, Rachel, but you can do that. But yeah. Yeah. So Deadpool myth, that's Marcus, I think, right? So in Twitch was asking about the trackability of government devices, and yeah, there's certainly. So I'll type this up for Slack, but I think it was Marcus and Rachel. Gotta get it right. Autocomplete too. There's too many Rachels. The trackability of government assets, and yeah, those will be theoretically much more trackable. At least they have they'll have what's called an asset tag or mark on them. So like I don't want to turn it around, but the camera I'm using, this is a camera I borrowed from the HTC, and so it has like scored into it a label that says what it is and who it belongs to, and then there's also somewhere else there's actually like there's a tag that says this belongs to the University of Mary Washington Foundation or something like that, and there's an ID. So like for my PC and several things like that are or like my laptop, there is a I don't know if it doesn't physically have a tag, but it is tracked. So like every year or two, the IT department does an audit for all of the devices that the university owns, and just wants to make sure that they're in the possession of whoever is supposed to be in charge of that object. So like I'm the administrator of my computer, and so if I don't have it, then that's an issue. And there's a lot of rules about what happens to university property whenever we're done with it. We have to go through this whole process of I forget what the term is. I can't think of the term, but there is a person in charge of this, and there's a big warehouse of all the stuff that has been the university can't use anymore, but also can't get rid of. It's actually a really fascinating place. I would love to take a field trip there sometime. Obviously, that's inconvenient right now, but it's a big. It's a warehouse. Like if you know where, I'm trying to think of the best way to describe it. So if you think of where, Route 1 and Calvin Boulevard have an intersection, and then sort of in that corner there behind Almonds Barbecue, there's there's a sushi place over there, and kind of behind the sushi place. No, it was not sushi place. Was it Miso? Yeah, Miso. It's sort of behind Miso. There's a what used to be a bread factory or bakery, I guess, and it's a big warehouse. And that big warehouse is full of UMW junk, and it's fascinating. And one of the things that they have there is they have several pallets of big old CRT TVs. So I got one of those. I have it on my workbench. I'll show you whenever I move my whole setup over there. It's because they can't sell them or recycle them, so they're just sitting there on pallets, and they can't do anything with them. There's also a whole bunch of old dorm furniture. A lot of it's been sitting in this big warehouse for a while with no climate control, so it's all moldy. So they can't put it anywhere in the dorms. and it would just take a lot of effort to, break it down and recycle it, or sell it. There's no one to buy it, so it's all just sitting there. Really interesting. And every now and then, if I need something, I go over there and check it out. Pretty interesting stuff. They do have some old computers. They're in such bad shape. I was not able to find anything that I thought would be worth saving over there last time I was there. But it's still, I don't know. It's just really interesting. There's also there's a big electronic sign. I forget what it was for. Yeah, it's a weird place. Okay, so sorry. So some questions. So anyway, so Marcus, they will have that information, but that doesn't necessarily tell you about what's in it or where it ends up ultimately. But the government, at least the state government in our case, or the federal government, whatever government, they do try to take these things and figure them out. Okay, so let's talk about some of the dangerous things. So, dangerous materials in your devices. So this is probably good to talk about, even if you're not going to take it apart, because maybe these are, understanding what's in there might dissuade you from taking something apart if it's something that could be harmful, right? We don't want to cause harm. So yeah, what is there? See a few people typing, so I'll let you type. And just there's a thread here from Olivia. Yes, it's optional to take it apart. And if you can find so one thing I'm going to say, I'm going to type it to Michaela too, but you might be able to do is find a takedown or tear down video that someone else has already done. And then extrapolate from what they've put out there. Extrapolate. That's only if you're doing the prehistory option. Okay, yeah. Okay, so a couple of dangers. So we've got calculators, so plastic, glass, and metal. Okay. I mean, glass certainly is dangerous if it shatters, right? And certain kinds of glass, depending on how it's been treated, can be more dangerous, or it may be more, when it shatters, it may shatter in different ways that might be challenges. Oh yeah, absolutely, batteries. So yeah, both Olivia and Brittany pointing out that batteries definitely are dangerous. I mean, the lithium-ion batteries especially can break apart. And yeah, yep. Printer toner. I don't know much about the specific risks of printer toner. I get printer toner on my fingers whenever I change a cartridge usually. So I'm kind of curious how dangerous it is. I don't know. I don't do it that often, but it is something to be concerned about. Certainly mercury, the video mentioned mercury. So let's see. Yeah, maybe, let me see if I can find something. Okay. Yeah, a lot of this stuff, I look up the technical explanation for how things are made, and I just, it takes me a while to kind of get it. What actually is liquid crystal? is it made out of? Yeah, that's I feel that way too sometimes, Michaela. It's the same for me. I mean, basically, you're you're seeing what I say about 5 seconds, 5 to 10 seconds after I say it. So that's like, so when I see something and react to it, like you're saying something that might be reacting to something I said 20 to 30 seconds ago. So it's kind of it's tricky. Yeah, it is a bizarre time shift that we're doing. From what I can tell, I'm just kind of skimming, but it looks like LED powered TVs and monitors and screens are not as likely to have the mercury in them, at least because the older style of LCD TV had the essentially fluorescent lights inside of it, and that's what provided the backlight. But now it's LEDs providing the backlight, and then the liquid crystal changes the imagery. Yeah, I think you're right, Rachel. It's probably just like, you know, sort of taking a bath in gasoline would be bad, but it's sort of like, powdering your face with toner would be bad. But the but small amounts of exposure maybe are not terrible. So Maddie, I saw your question there. Let me send you the link. It's on the homepage of the Canvas site too, by the way, which is just kind of moving slowly. Okay, so a couple other questions about this video, and then we'll wrap it up. And of course, if you're having conversations, by the way, you can certainly keep talking. It's kind of strange. I don't know how to fix that test. I mean, I guess if you can't see me, you can't hear me explaining that. Not sure. Oh, not wrong test there. Not sure. Maybe restart the browser. My stream manager says it's broadcasting. Okay. So here's the question, though. Like we did before when we talked about the podcast, I was interested in the ways that the audio tells the story, or the editing of that audio makes you feel certain ways about the speaker. So this is a similar place where we can think about how this video convinces us that it's authoritative. So here's a different kind of question, and this will be our last question. How does this video convince us that it's authoritative when it comes to the topic? Visually, audially, etc. What are its rhetorical appeals? Appeals is maybe not the right word. Maybe. Strategies. How about that? Strategies is good. So in other words, like, it's a pretty straightforward documentary, but what about it makes it seem straightforward? Like, what do I mean when I say straightforward? And you probably notice the same thing. So what are the actual components, the elements of it that add up to that impression that you might have, that I think you have when you watch it? I'm asking you this now because the video that we'll watch Wednesday has a very different set of rhetorical strategies for telling us some of the same things about some of the same ideas. So I'm interested in paying attention to those differences. So I wanted to take a minute to note some of those now, and then we'll wrap it up for today. Several people. I love when Slack says several people are typing. That's great. Squirrel's back. I'm gonna watch this squirrel for a minute. It's on the ground right now. Probably it's just shaking out a bunch of the seed from the feeder, and so it's just like eating whatever's on the ground. So it may be there a while. Okay. Yeah, okay. So narrator. So having a narrator. Using journalistic practices. Like blurring faces. So there's organization. With a founder. The interview style. Yeah, great. Yeah. Yeah, and I think actually that's a good point. Yeah, I think there's an intentionally stark contrast between the formality of the interviews and the dirtiness of the farm they visit. Yeah. Yeah, good point too. Definitely. The lower third. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, the lower thirds. I don't know if you meant them having like a job title or you meant literally the on-screen titles, but I think either way, and definitely the on-screen titles, the lower third, like this is so and so's name, like that definitely conveys a sense of authority. Like this is an important person who needs to be named here. So yeah, good stuff. All this said, so Michaela pointed out some things definitely could be talked about more, and that's great. I mean, this is a short thing. This is an 8-minute video, right? So it obviously can't cover a lot. There's also certain things that it's kind of assuming we know about, or assuming that we can trust them about. Like it wants us to just kind of trust them that this is accurate in some cases. So yeah, I mean, so Jonathan, like ultimately, I think we do find this person credible as we watch it, but it's something that is built up through these things, and because he's a real person with real credentials, we could look him up and try to figure this out if we had questions. Like we could take this further if we wanted to apply some healthy skepticism, but that's yeah. I mean, that's up to us to decide if we need to do that or not. Okay, so you can wrap up your thoughts here. I have another stream to start in about 12 minutes, so I'm gonna wrap this up soon. But finish your thoughts here if you'd like. The main thing going forward is think about like what does this leave you not knowing? So thinking about your device, what are some of the things that you still need to figure out about your device? It sounds like screens, like LED or LCD screens, is a big theme in a lot of your objects. So maybe that's something that we should research some more. You should, and then if you find something useful, share it in the 101 channel. And then also, like, what are your materials? Like, what actually is in there, and what is the market like for those materials? So if it's mostly plastic, I mean, you can recycle plastic, but how much is a calculator's worth of plastic really worth on the plastics recycling market? I would imagine very little, but if you can calculate that, that does give you a sense of life after this. Yeah, definitely. Okay, you're right, Gentry. There have been cases of those things exploding, not just on planes, but in other places too, and that's a big issue. Okay, so going forward, I mean, you're working on your digital archaeology project still. So I think most of you, I think a few of you have already turned it in, which is fine, of course. But thinking about your device, think about like what are the other things you need to know about it, and as you find good sources of that information, please share it in one-to-one in the Slack channel. Also, feel free to reach out to me if you have questions about your device or something. I can try to help you figure out what's going on with it, or help you figure out the timeline software, whatever your issues are with that. Okay, any quick questions? I need to wrap this up so I can move on to the next one. So, do you have any? If there are any quick questions for me that you want to put on the stream, then please go ahead and do that. Otherwise, I will sign off and see you all on Wednesday in another live stream. Squirrel's gone. There's a bird though. That's good. I mean, not really. I mean, if you want to, so I'm not too worried about it if it's late at this point, which is true of all of these things. So Ashley, yeah, I'm gonna say ideally, but if you need more time, that's fine, right? I'm not super worried about things being done on time as much as I am about them being done in order. Like, I think I would recommend you finish up the archaeology project before moving on to the methodology project. But if it's, I mean, Canvas doesn't let me say, like when I create an assignment on Canvas and I have to assign a due date to it, I can't say, do it now-ish or, or whenever. I can't say anything like that. So I'm going to leave the date on there, but if it needs to be late, don't sweat it. It's not, and it won't be late. I mean, if it's not due Friday, it's not late. It's just not in yet. So, yeah. Okay, so hopefully that answered the question. Thanks for streaming, everyone. I'm going to shut this one down so I can do this again in 10 minutes. So thanks for joining me. Looks like, yeah, 17. Great. And like I said, I'll post a version of this conversation and some notes in your Canvas groups. So check those out, even if you did do the live stream, in case you have some things to add for those people who were not able to join us at this time in real time. Okay, so I'm going to shut it down. We'll see you all in this format again on Wednesday, or possibly talk sooner than that. Yeah, have a great day. And stop.